velocidade normal e depois em câmera lenta. Mão vermelha, mão roxa, mão laranja. Agora em câmera lenta. Mão vermelha, mão roxa, mão laranja.
Beach Park com preços imperdíveis. Diárias nos resorts Beach Park.
Today I really just want to talk to you about a movie that I saw. There's some common themes with Look Back and its extremely unusual production process. Maybe I'll convince you to watch it, maybe we'll just chat it back and its extremely unusual year, up there with Look Back, and which even shares some common themes with Look Back and its extremely unusual production process. Maybe I'll convince you to there's some common themes with Look Back and its favorite movies of last year, up there with Look Back, and which even shares some common themes with Look Back and its extremely
Por que a animação tá tão cabulosa desse jeito assim? Tá nem animada. A luz também não é tão...
unusual production process. Maybe I'll convince you to watch it, maybe we'll just chat a bit about the limitations and potential of Agent Red. Probably particularly loved its first 5 wilderness. Animals are indicate nature of, well, nature. And I think a story where this humanoid robot learns to live within this community of animals and communicate with them in their own non-verbal ways would have been really fun and interesting. But of course, the robot just has a long sit down and does some Matrix-style data download.
I know Kung Fu.
And suddenly can understand and speak with the animals, which quickly become heavily anthropomorphized and start making human facial expressions and stuff. Because otherwise, how would you sell tickets if you can't jam it full of big-name celebrities? You gotta get Pedro Pascal in there. He's famous. He was in The Equalizer 2 and that one episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer when he was 24. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm being way too snarky about a kids movie that I did legitimately enjoy. There's nothing inherently wrong with having talking animals, and Pedro Pascal is delightful. I'll be recording a full apology video shortly. But the point is, it was kind of ruined for me by another movie I had watched a few months earlier, Flow. The pantheon of talking animal films is really the Western animation industry's claim to fame and the foundation upon which it was built, and there are of course some great ones. But the reason I love animation so much is that it can do literally anything. Mainstream 3D animation is in a sort of stylistic renaissance right now since Spider-Verse, but I think it's a shame that in a medium of literally infinite possibilities, animals are almost exclusively used as cuter, furrier...
$1 milhão! As apostas nunca foram tão altas. Você pode superar, prevalecer e ultrapassar os melhores para ganhar $1 milhão. Prove. Eita pomba, tanto dinheiro? Que foi isso? $1 milhão. Eu vou ganhar esses $1 milhão.
Humans that just happen to be shaped a little different. And yes, I'm aware of the irony in that last sentence. But what do you want me to do? Make YouTube videos where I express my media opinions by wordlessly scuttling around and snuffling in the dirt for delicious little insects? That's what the Patreon's for, you nitwit. Believe it or not, animals do communicate with each other in all kinds of cool ways that don't involve words. See if you can decode the message that Artemis is trying to communicate with me here. What? What does this mean? Yes? Oh, that? What about it? So there's no reason you couldn't build a movie around that. And that's just what Gint Zilbalotus did with Flow. Now, there's an elephant in this YouTube video, which is that you may have noticed the clips I'm showing you kinda look like a video game, and there's a reason for that, which I promise we'll get to, because it's actually one of the most interesting things.
Mano, mas o do $1 milhão me pegou, hein? Vencedor, $1 milhão! Caralho, eu tô com $1 milhão.
About this movie. Our story begins, as all good stories do, with a Latvian high schooler. In 2012, that high schooler created this 7-minute 2D animated short called Aqua, about a cat who wakes up to a flooded world, lives in an abandoned boat, and grows its confidence in the water through fishing and some assistance from a benevolent bird. It's incredible work for a high schooler, and you can really see his eye for lighting and cinematography in creative shots like this one, where the camera stays locked to the inside of the boat as it rocks and the stars in the background sway back and forth. But he was unsatisfied with his drawing abilities, so switched to 3D animation, made several more shorts, and one other feature film completely by himself, which also happens to feature a helpful bird, before returning to spend 5 years adapting the concept from Aqua into a feature film. Flow follows the journey of a little dark gray cat who, when a flood of biblical proportions suddenly swallows the world, is forced to face its fear of water and of other animals in order to survive, as it shares this abandoned boat with a band of unlikely comrades, a dog, a lemur, a capybara, and a secretary bird, and drifts through an enchanting, mysterious lemur, a capybara, and
a capivara. A capybara. Se você conseguir compartilhar o dinheiro com a gente, tipo, um pouco pra mim, um pouco pra outras pessoas, se quiser. Caramba, eu não sei, mas, tipo, talvez eu doaria metade pra caridade. Aí os outros eu pagaria minha conta. E o resto eu doaria também.
A secretary bird, and drifts through an enchanting, mysterious world devoid of humans but full of life. The animals are a little enhanced and show a bit more ability to reason and or steer a boat than their real-world counterparts would probably have, but for the most part are just animals, like the first 5 minutes of The Wild Robot. As such, the hour and 25-minute story is told entirely without dialogue. On its surface, it's a pretty simple plot, and I'm sure it can be enjoyed by younger audiences in that simple form, but there's so much more going on just beneath the surface, both literally and figuratively. If there's one filmmaking aphorism you know, it's probably show don't tell. But cliches become cliches for a reason, and without the ability to tell you anything, figuratively. If there's one filmmaking aphorism you know, it's probably show don't tell. But cliches become cliches for a reason, and without the ability to tell you anything, Flow by definition has a whole lot of showing to do. The characters are built on top of recognizable archetypes of their species that make them easier to acquaint yourself with at first. The friendly but dumb yellow lab, the clever but aloof cat, the humble and laid-back capybara.
If I'm any rodent, it's the loyal capybara, king of the rats.
But they grow and change their attitudes across the runtime, and the primarily French and Belgian animation teams did extensive research on animal body language and used
YouTube.com $1 million. $1 million Robux. There. $1 million. $1 million. $1 million.
Ordany, thank you for the 50 gifted member.
Page, just left click with your
Now, something they could never get back.
Used copious reference footage, here's some of it now, sometimes of their own pets, to express a wide range of emotions through the characters' faces and bodies without having to lean on human facial expressions and words. The cat in particular shows not just basic feelings like fear and anxiety with a hunched posture, airplane ears, lowered tail, wide eyes with slim pupils, and raised fur down the spine, or the insatiable thirst for the hunt with dilated pupils that fill the eyes, a swishing tail, and a butt wiggle, but even more complex emotions like apprehension or, my personal favorite, an intense annoyance towards the dog that gradually softens into sympathetic vexation and eventually begrudging affection. You can practically see the gears turning in this little guy's head, and that's only enhanced by the voice acting, which is equally expressive in moments like this one where the cat tries to get the capybara's attention to steer the boat away from the collision course it's on. Each animal was voiced by its real-world counterpart, except the capybara, which was voiced by a baby camel, because, as it turns out, capybaras don't actually make that much noise. The sound designer's cat gives a particularly stirring performance. And the world of the film has just as much depth to it. Not much is explained outright about this world or its history, but it's riddled with little details that tell a story and create the atmosphere of this mystical, mysterious land, as Zilbelotis describes in his interview with 3DVF.
I'm asking the audience to participate in the storytelling. There's a lot of environmental storytelling. You have to look and pay attention, and I think if you pay attention you will be rewarded.
Also, to anyone who follows me on Blue Sky, sorry I keep spam reposting this guy. He has some interesting stuff to say and he just seems like a genuine nice guy. I mean, look at this video of him and his dog reacting to their Oscar nomination, him trying to share the apple he's eating with the dog and the dog having zero interest in the apple. I just like him, okay? Sue me. In one of the first scenes, a small boat can be seen lodged high up in a tree, implying previous
Olá, segundo espectador simultâneo. Ah, eu preciso ter 13 anos ou mais para concorrer ao grande prêmio de $1 milhão. Ah, não, véi, não.
floods and foreshadowing the impending one. The abandoned house the cat lives in, the ancient ruins, numerous statues of cats.
Eu tenho que ter 13 e 17 anos, velho. Já chega $1 milhão. Eu tinha esperança dos $1 milhão ir na minha conta, mas agora não tem como mais, não. Não, porque eu vou ter que viajar. Eu vou ter que viajar pra sede da Roblox. Se eu conseguir chegar pelo menos nos 10 principais vencedores. Aí eu tenho que ter 13 entre 17 anos, ter o pai para eu concorrer ao grande prêmio.
And animals. These details can be treated as a puzzle to be decoded.
Eu vou torcer pro Crickcraft ganhar, então. Se o Crickcraft ganhar, eu vou ficar muito feliz. Mesmo não sendo eu. Porque dinheiro não é tudo.
Or just accept it as a rich tapestry in the background. It's a very metaphorical story that doesn't always give you easy answers and leaves some things up to interpretation, and that, combined with the lack of dialogue, might be frustrating to some people. But if you're like me, a big fan of stories told without words and or have a particular affinity for animals and interest in how they communicate, then this is a must-watch. I've complained in the past about the common misconception in the West that animation is a genre rather than a medium and that it's just silly little stuff for kids.
Raise your hand if you let your kid fill out this part of the ballot.
Bank angle.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Bank angle.
And sure, animation is a great medium for kids. It's limited only by your imagination. But all the best kids movies that people remember fondly appeal to human children and adults alike, not because they secretly sneak in some hidden message or raunchy jokes that only adults will understand, but because they tell meaningful, nuanced stories. Flow isn't a kids movie, but it goes to show that there's no reason that there has to be this hard distinction between serious adult stuff and stupid slop for dumb kids. A story is a story, no matter the medium. Much like the cat in the film, this was Zilbalodis' first time working with a crew, as he had been a one-man band for all his previous projects, and also like the cat, he had less than $4 million in funding. With such a small budget, the production needed to be optimized for speed and efficiency, so the movie was made start to finish in open-source donut-making software Blender. That alone would be unusual for a feature film that's gained this much international success, but it was also rendered in Eevee. For the uninitiated, Blender has two rendering engines. Cycles, the higher quality one that can do ray tracing and all these super high-quality lighting simulations, but takes ages to render, and Eevee, the near real-time rendering engine that basically takes a bunch of shortcuts and renders way faster but not as high quality, like a video game engine. And that's why you don't get the highly textured, photorealistic look that you might be used to in modern 3D animated movies, but they really get some amazing quality out of it, especially considering that, for anyone familiar, this production was before the recent overhaul of Eevee, and also before geometry nodes while we're at it. They really lean into this style, aiming for naturalism rather than realism. The reality is in the characters' movements and feelings, and you really do forget about the lack of realistic textures almost immediately. And that real-time rendering engine also allowed Zilbalodis to adapt his workflow in some really unconventional ways, to fit his own strengths while also saving money. With such a limited budget, there is absolutely zero room for wasted effort, and that means no deleted scenes, no storyboards, and almost no concept art. Instead, he would model a very rough version of the environment and characters on his own, then explore that environment with the camera to find ideas that would then turn into an animatic. The modelers and animators could then take that animatic and build on it directly in the same project file, adding details and higher quality models only to the parts of the scene that are necessary according to the camera angle.
We put detail only on the things that are in the foreground. We don't design something that's far away. Everything is designed from the point of view of the camera.
Remember I pointed out Zilbalodis' eye for lighting and cinematography in Aqua? Well, that plays into this too. Lighting and camera are sort of two sides of the same coin. That's why on live action sets, the director of photography and the key grip are best of buddies, good friends, and good pals. Though with the ability to move lights and camera and see the results almost in real time, you're then also able to light the scenes with the camera position in mind and vice versa. This way, instead of fully lighting a scene like it's a real place, they were able to treat it more like a movie set, lighting directly for the camera, so that if you looked at many of the scenes from a
Yes. Yes.
different angle, it would look weird and incomplete. But from the perspective of the camera, you get these beautiful scenes with
There's no limit to the imagination. Our minds are full of ideas every day. However, there's only so much the human mind can accomplish alone. That is why I, Bob Carter, founder of Rozzy Incorporated, am proud to announce its partnership with Myris to create the 98XX, the most powerful computer on the planet, to pave the way for a brighter future.
O que torna o Bitrix 24 o favorito de milhões de empresas no mundo. Ele permite que você gerencie tarefas, clientes, venda.
Jogaram bomba e tentaram queimar a garagem da vítima.
Virou mania agora vocês jogarem bomba na minha casa.
Pô, é chatão os caras pegarem... Tá porra!
Tô indo na delegacia.
Dores em fúria após ele dizer que não gostava dos fãs.
Vieram na minha casa e tacaram fogo no meu portão. Gente, eu só quero viver em paz, tá? Eu não mexo com ninguém, eu não perturbo ninguém, tá ligado? Eu não faço a vida de ninguém um inferno. Eu fico em casa fazendo live, mas vocês precisam de me perturbar.
Bluesão, um dos youtubers Lost Media mais polêmicos do Brasil, o mesmo que há mais de 10 anos atrás ia no antigo Pânico e passava maior vergonha por dinheiro, o mesmo que comia comida do lixo em vídeo e ainda assim aproveitou para criar um quadro sobre isso com o nome Momento Friganismo. O cara que ficou preso dentro da sua própria casa por conta que seus haters descobriram seu endereço e foram lá colocar um cadeado no portão de sua casa.
Quem foi o filho da puta que botou um corrente e um cadeado no portão da minha casa e me trancou dentro da minha própria casa? Me trancou dentro da própria casa. Um maluco com uma máscara de palhaço e um maluco com um capuz vieram na minha casa pra me trancar dentro da minha própria casa, tá?
Meu Deus do céu!
Sacanagem!
O mesmo que foi em podcast, bebeu cerveja sem álcool e ainda assim conseguiu ficar bêbado.
Bêbado, velho? É sem álcool?
Mentira.
Olha aí, vira aí pra câmera.
Meu Deus. O cara tomou cerveja sem álcool e ficou bêbado. Como que bebe cerveja sem álcool e mesmo assim fica bêbado? Meu Deus do céu. É muito grande esse mapa, velho. Olha o tamanho disso. Por isso que dá pra deixar essa cidade maior. Tem muito lugar pra nós ir agora, hein?
Mentira.
Mas peraí. Dark Web atacando de novo.